new media, I think, offers solutions to older problems, such as the ones I just discussed, like where you've got, you know, there was a hot star in the 60s who made a shit ton of records, but now they're all now it's essentially an outdated format. There is, you know, minimal interest. There is some interest from certain people who still have them. Maybe some people still play them. There's like people who still buy them, but they're not buying them in the way that they were bought in the 60s, which was just like pure functionality. Like, this is how we listen to music in like the best quality we can at home. Now they're purchased as some kind of like analog exoticism sort of statement. Like, whether it's self-aware or not, it's buying into essentially nostalgia for old media. And then there are also people, there's also the classic discussion about how it sounds better, vinyl. I think a lot of people say that without actually knowing what they're talking about. And I think there are definitely people who, you know, they invest a shit ton of money in a good player, good needle, good speakers, good setup, like they have a room for it. And in that instance, yeah, I'm sure it would be better than streaming. In the same scenario, it could definitely be. But then, like, I mean, you know, people I know will buy records and be like, yeah, dude, it sounds so good on vinyl. And then they just have like the shittest, like cheapest turntable, shit speakers, and they take shit care of their records. And it's like, you're an idiot. Like, you are just buying into the analog exoticism, as I call it. Anyway, the main point I was trying to get at is, if you apply this concept of, you know, let's say like there's so many pop stars, and let's say they each have a run of about a decade where they are in good use, like, and I guess in the past, my point is that their discography would be, I mean, like, they would leave a physical footprint through the form of the commodities they sold, the objects, the records, etc. Whereas now, someone like Nicki Minaj, I'm sure there are still CDs. I'm sure people have bought her CDs, but like I'm sure I would make a good guess. I'd make an educated guess that most of those people's music is consumed via streaming, which leaves a different kind of footprint, but it doesn't leave this physical object footprint where, like, you know, in 60 years, if people still want it, it might be on YouTube, and then there might be people like me in the 80s being like, I remember listening to this, you know, getting the nostalgia kick sort of thing. But it'll be discrete, it'll be digital. It still does take up physical space, as I said, like on servers, but I guess the problem now is balancing. There's an old paradox. I don't know if it's paradox is even the right word for it. It's just like a concept that, or like, you know, the irony that if you increase the efficiency of consumption of a particular resource, you would think that you would save that resource, but in fact you end up using as much or more of it because it's more efficient. In the sense that if you went on a camping trip, you'd just be like bathing in let's say you were bathing in a river for like the first 20 years of your life, and then you'd come across a shower, and it's like quote unquote more efficient. But then I guess now the way we do it is we take showers pretty luxuriously. We take like one a day. Some people I know take more than one a day, and some people I know take quite long showers. So like, we have a very efficient, in this country and in other countries, not all countries unfortunately, but we have an efficient way to use water. But that ends up changing our sense of value. It becomes less valuable because it's more easily accessible, therefore we use it less frugally. And I guess the same applies when you had to go all out and like press a record, or like, you know, get a record deal. It seemed to take more effort in a lot of ways to produce that music, whereas I guess digitally there's nothing holding you back. Just about anyone who makes music privately, like produces recorded object music, will publish it somewhere, even if it's just sending it to someone, like on email or something. But you know, the number of fucking SoundClouds and the number of small groups that do still put shit on Spotify and Google Play. Is that the music store? I don't know, the Google Music thing, Apple Music, iTunes, etc. So it's more. So I feel like that's an example of that paradox applied to the transfer from old media to new media. I'm not sure actually, now that I think about it, if it was that much harder to make records in the past, because I guess there would have been way more plants like pressing vinyl, and then also there would have been way more labels actively finding new groups to sign and distribute and shit. But the point remains, physical objects have a very different value in terms of art commodity, music commodity.